99% of men through 99% of history have been involuntarily celibate. I was involuntarily celibate for the first 19 years of my life. I was dying to be in celibate, but no one would participate in my program.
Hey there, everyone. Craig Melvin here, coming to you from my basement bar. And welcome to this edition of Glass Half Full. This is where we really like to talk about the moments that define people's lives, professionally and personally. And this episode is sponsored by Walton Family Foundation. Joining me today here on Glass Half Full, Scott Galloway. You probably know Scott. You've at least probably heard that name over the last few months especially. He is a famous podcaster. He's a professor. He's an entrepreneur. He's a best-selling author as well. And he wrote a book. In fact, full disclosure, it was my favorite book last year. I gave it out as Christmas gifts to friends of mine, especially friends who were the parents of young boys. Scott has spent a lot of time over the last year or so especially talking and writing about the plight of young men in our modern society. So we talked about that, of course, but we also talked about big tech. We talked about education. We talked about some of the pushback that he's gotten to some of his ideas as well. It is probably going to be the most, I'd say, controversial conversation we've had so far. But I still think you're going to enjoy it. So let's get to it. Scott Galloway, welcome. So the podcast is called Glass Half Full. Generally speaking, or would you consider yourself a glass half full guy or a glass half empty guy?
Oh, 100% glass half empty. And I can't stand everybody says they're optimists. I think you need optimists to fly a plane or to invent the plane, but I think you need pessimists for seatbelts, so I think there's a role for us. But just being very honest, I constantly have to remind myself and ask myself what could go right. I'm open about this. I struggle with anger and depression, so I have a tendency to see things through dark-colored glasses and constantly catastrophize. In a weird way, it's really helped my career because if you're an academic or a thought leader, catastrophizing is much more compelling or interesting because if you were to be honest about history, the narrative would be something along the lines of the following. You know, every day things get just a touch better. That's been the narrative of the West over the last 200 years.
This is why I wanted to talk to you. I mean, it's your ability to distill is it's really set you in a class by yourself over the last few years. On that note, we like to talk about the journey. We like to talk about the moments here that really come to define us personally, come to define us professionally. Is there a moment that you look back on, Scott, that shaped you the most in terms of how you turned out and who you are today as we sit here?
Yeah, I think a lot about that, and it's the stuff you would expect. It's kind of birth and death. I was raised by a single immigrant mother, lived and died as secretary a lot of my life, and I was kind of sleepwalking through life. You know, I was a mediocre student, didn't work that hard, kind of woke up at 25, and because I was smart enough to be born in California and had the blessings of California taxpayers and the Regents of the University of California, I had access to incredible free education, UCLA and Berkeley for graduate school. And they were not only affordable, but they were accessible. I got into UCLA with an 1130 on the SAT and a 3.1 GPA. And then get this, I graduated from UCLA with a 2.27 GPA.
Wow.
And I got into Berkeley Business School.
Wow.
So things have changed dramatically.
Well, it's a different time.
And then in my second year of business school, my mom called me and said, you need to come home right away. I'm not doing well. And my mom had gone in for cancer surgery for her second mastectomy. We were underinsured. She was discharged early. I didn't know this at the time, but they want to get you out of the hospital because it's expensive. They discharged her too early. And my mom's not dramatic, so I knew something was wrong and I went home. And Craig, I walked into a situation that I just didn't know how to handle. And my mom was deathly ill. So it was like, okay, do I try and get her back in the hospital? They said, no, we can't take her. You got to call an ambulance. They'll take her to county. And I called a friend of mine who was a doctor and said, you do not want your mom in county. So I thought, okay, I'll get her a nurse because there's just some things a son can't do for his mom.
Yeah.
And it was $35 an hour for a nurse, and I had $700 to my name. And I thought, okay, I got 20 hours of nursing to take care of the person who's taken care of me her whole life. And it was just, quite frankly, it was so humiliating and so emasculating that you can't decide to be successful. You can't decide to be economically secure, but you can decide to try really hard. And that was the moment I thought, okay, I'm going to do everything I can not to, again, wake up in this vulnerable position for me and my mom. And quite frankly, that's when I got my shit together. And for the next 20 years, and I'm not saying this is the right way, but it's my way, and I'm not proud of this, I did little else but work. I just didn't do anything else. I took vacations with clients. I woke up early and worked out with employees. I was constantly thinking about work and money because I want to say I was traumatized but motivated. And I always say, kind of snarkily, it cost me my hair, it cost me my first marriage, and it was worth it. I now have a lot of balance. I'm able to take care of everyone in my life that's important to me, at least on dimensions. But that was the moment that sort of said, all right, boss, you need to grow up. Yeah. It's no longer about you. It's time for you to start taking care of other people. But that was, if you could distill it down to kind of one thing, it was my mom getting sick and me being unable to take care of her at the level she had taken care of me.
Yeah. Notes on Being a Man was the best book I read last year.
Thank you.
It's just the thesis itself, and the first few pages, I'm like, wow, this guy's making a case for masculinity in 2026. This is not going to go over well. I was wrong. It went over amazingly well. It resonated with so many people. I gave it out as Christmas gifts to all my buddies. Were you at all surprised, or have you been surprised by just the sheer response to the book, to the themes that you touch on in the book?
Well, first off, you're being generous. Look, it's better to be lucky than good. The conversation around trying to develop a aspirational code or viewpoint of masculinity, the timing was lucky. It was good. So America wants to have the conversation right now, and I was lucky enough to be put in the middle of it, or the book was. There was also some really valid criticism that I'm too focused on money and too focused on, people said, look, Scott, getting a girlfriend and getting wealthy worked for you, but that's not necessarily the right path to happiness and fulfillment for everybody. There's been some really, I think, valid pushback. Also, I think on the far left, anytime you start advocating for men, there's a gag reflex that, here's one of those people. So there's been a healthy amount of criticism, and some of it's been valid. But on the whole, it's just super rewarding. Whenever someone comes up to me and looks at me, I'm sure this happens to you a lot, but it's a new phenomena for me where people come up to me and recognize me and say nice things. But if someone comes up to me and I can tell they really want to meaningfully say something, I know immediately. I go, you have sons, don't you? Because I think the conversation, you have a daughter and a son, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
I think you're going to find, so your kids are still really young, but this is going to happen to you, and it happens to most parents. You're going to have, when your kid is around, or when your daughter or your son is around 13 or 15, you're going to have a party at your house, a Halloween party. And you're going to notice that the boys, the 15-year-old boys, this just happened, nice kids, but they're dopes. They don't look you in the eye. They're just dopes. And there will be 3 or 4 15-year-old girls who look like they could be the junior senators from Pennsylvania. Smart, incredibly EQ. Yeah. They look 25, mature. How are you, Mr. Galloway? What a lovely home you have. I really enjoyed your book on income inequality. I can't believe what you said about the Gini ratio. And you're like, who am I talking to? Yeah. And the boys are like, where's the Xbox? It's just
right.
So the difference, and also the data is so stark. Just to rattle off some of the key points: 4 times more likely to kill themselves, 12 times more likely to be incarcerated, 3 times more likely to be addicted or homeless than women. And also what it ends up is that while boys are physically stronger, they're neurologically and emotionally much weaker than girls. Boys' prefrontal cortex doesn't catch up until they're 25. and you'll start to see the difference amongst your kids' female and male friends. I mean, it's just striking.
Yeah.
You're like, these people are the same age. So I think parents really resonate with it, and I think a lot of young men are getting mixed signals and haven't felt seen by certain elements of our political system. So again, I'm proud of the book. It's a good book. I spent a lot of time on it, a lot of energy on it. I got 15, 20 pages of notes. I did my homework. But again, it's all timing, Craig. I got lucky here.
Well, two things can be true. But it was this stat early in the book also, Scott, that struck me. This idea that we live in an age where a significant number of young men haven't had to deal with rejection, like being rejected by a woman face to face at an early age. When I tell you I spent the better part of my 20s being rejected by a wide variety of women, and it helps you. Like you develop
100%.
a sort of a resilience that you wouldn't otherwise develop. Let's talk a little bit about that and what happens when young men don't get like no to their face repeatedly over a weekend.
So there's two. My colleague Jonathan Haidt and I think her name is Jean Twenge from San Diego State have done a lot of work on teen depression, and we've seen teen self-harm and depression skyrocket. And they were able to distill it down to two fundamental drivers. First and foremost, when social went on mobile. Since 2012, there's just been a dramatic increase in spike in depression rates. But the second is our fault, and that is as parents, we engage in what's called concierge or bulldozer parenting, where we clear out every obstacle. Oh, the kid got a B+. Let's call the teacher. Let's get tutoring.
Yeah.
Oh, they've had their heart. Whatever it is, we clear out the obstacles for them. We make their life as frictionless as possible. There's no bullying at schools anymore. Or there's a lack of it, I should say. And the result is this princess and the pea syndrome, and that is we use so many sanitary wipes on our kids' lives that they don't develop their own immunities. Ooh. And at NYU, we talk a lot about mental health and suicide prevention. And one of the reasons it skyrocketed is that an 18-year-old gets to NYU as a freshman, and he or she has never had their heart broken. He or she has never gotten a C before. And one or both of those things happen, and they don't have the skills to deal with it. And the only element, if you really want to be successful, if you want to punch above your weight class economically and romantically, then I would say, then get out a big spoon and get ready to eat shit. Because the only thing everyone who you admire, who has a disproportionate amount of influence, economic security, or is with someone higher character and quite frankly hotter than them, the only thing you know for certain is one, they were either born into exceptional wealth, or two, they're comfortable with no. And that is, I didn't get into college when I first applied. I applied to 9 graduate schools. I got into 1. I applied probably to 30 jobs, and I got 1 because the guy that ran the department had road crew like me. I didn't even really, quite frankly, get it on my merit. Like you, I've endured a great deal of rejection from women. I ran for 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade class presidents. I lost all 3 times, and based on my track record, I decided to run for student body president, where I went on to, wait for it, lose. But here's the thing. Every time I lost, every time a woman said no to me at 6'2", 140 pounds with bad acne to go to the movies, I was upset. And then the next day, I was a little less upset. Yeah. And then the next day, by day 3, I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Yeah. I'm okay. And you develop calluses, and you develop the skills to endure rejection. So the key to success is the ability to apply for jobs you're not qualified for, to ask people out on dates who you perceive as being outside of your weight class romantically, to engage in friends or try to be friends with people you perceive are, for whatever reason, cooler than you. Because that's the key to wonderful yeses is just a great deal of no's. And I worry that young men with screens and algorithms are trying to engage in frictionless relationships where they take the easy path. Like, why go through the pecking order of friendship when you have Reddit and Discord? Why go through the BS of corporate America when you can trade stocks or crypto on Coinbase or Robinhood? And why would you go through the humiliation, rejection, perseverance, cost of trying to find a romantic partner when you have life like porn? So we're kind of outsourced life, and I worry, and I'll wrap up my word salad here, I'm worried we're evolving a new species of asocial, asexual males who don't take advantage of their testosterone, which is a fantastic substance when it is leveraged correctly, and that is to take uncomfortable risks that might have a huge payoff professionally or personally.
And I don't think a lot of people even realized we were doing it as a society for a long time. And to your point, yeah, my son's younger, so I haven't had to deal with a lot of it yet. That's why I think I read the book and was so freaked out about what was waiting on me in a few years. There's a study I want to ask you about. It's a study from the Walton Family Foundation, Gallup, and the Bipartisan Policy Center. Gen Z has more access to smartphones in classrooms than any generation before them. From what you see teaching at NYU, how is that constant connectivity, how is that changing the way that students learn?
Well, their attention span. I think it's harder for our educators in K through 12. I teach second-year MBAs. They're in their late 20s, sometimes their early 30s. They've kind of regulated. They understand the problems there. Where you really see the impact, I think, is in K through 12, where kids are so used to, their brains have been wired to expect a constant stream of dopamine stimulation in 30 or 60-second cycles that, and I see this with my sons, it's almost impossible for my kids to sit through a movie. And so it's just essentially, it's vastly shortened our attention cycle and our ability to focus. And this has been especially, I think, hard on boys in terms of attention, who are more kind of antsy, if you will, to begin with. But it's made teaching just unbearable for young people or for young teachers. And the problem is it's crowding out what it means to be a mammal. It's crowding out the friction, the emotion, and the difficulty of establishing offline relationships. But you're not just avoiding friction, you're avoiding real reward. There's nothing more rewarding than getting to hang out with someone you perceive as just insanely interesting and hot. There's nothing more exciting than getting a job that, quite frankly, you feel imposter syndrome because you didn't think you'd ever get it. There's nothing like making more money than you thought you would ever, if you ever get to that good problem, such that you can take care of your parents or take your spouse somewhere nice. That is what victory feels like. And what the online world is doing is saying, we're going to make everything super easy. But there's never any real sense of victory.
You're right. Hey, Scott, do you think the pendulum swings back? I mean, do you think that maybe our kids at some point, they wake up from their slumber with longer attention spans and they look around, they're like, oh my God, our parents, they screwed us up. We gotta fix this. And if it does happen, then what does that look like? How do they do it?
I think there is reason for optimism. There was a court finding in New Mexico that Meta knew that they were harming, or that harm. The Attorney General of New Mexico did something pretty simple but pretty genius. They created fake accounts mimicking a 13-year-old girl, and within hours, if not minutes, the 13-year-old girl was being solicited with offers and images from abusers, potential abusers. And if Facebook, with all their technology, I mean, the bottom line is they know what's going on, but they don't want to get in the way of a scalable business model that is probably, the greatest toll booth in history. So we are starting to see regulation finally starting to kick in. Young people are actually figuring out that this is not good for them. They're getting, they're trying to regulate themselves. You hear more about kids about going phone free. Again, my colleague Jonathan Haidt, his book, The Anxious Generation, has resulted in entire countries banning phones in schools. It took us about 30 years to figure out tobacco. I wouldn't say figure it out, but at least respond to it. 20 years with opiates. It usually takes about 20 years. So if social went on mobile, that would mean we'd figure it out at about 2032. And that timeline feels kind of right. The worm is beginning to turn. People are sick of the Sheryl Sandberg, we need to do better, or Mark Zuckerberg, I haven't seen that data, and it comes out, well, you did see that data, but you ignored it. Legislation in, I think, about half the states now around phones in schools. Liability. The problem with that court case is they'll get fined a couple $100 million, which is like a parking ticket for most people. It's a nuisance, but not really going to disincentivize your behavior. But I do think there's hope that things have bottomed out, that young people recognize these companies are not their friends, and that society is starting to finally regulate these companies.
And there's also a tidal wave of other lawsuits that they're facing now, too. So to your point, yeah, I guess it could very well be a watershed moment. I want to go back to that survey that I mentioned, because Gallup's latest data also shows only about 39% of Gen Z adults say that they are thriving. 39%. The numbers for young women have dropped nearly 10 points in the last year, and you've talked a lot about loneliness and economic pressure on young people. What do you think is driving that decline? Or do we know?
Some of it is real and some of it is perception. The data actually shows that relative to the past, they're not doing as poorly as you would think. I mean, Jimmy Carr, who's one of my new kind of intellectual Yoda, says, if you have access to Novocaine, Netflix, cheap calories, and a hot shower, you're living better than the wealthiest person was just 100 years ago.
Facts.
So the actual lifestyle and well-being of young people objectively is as good or better than it's been in a long time. Now, the problem is that's not how the human brain works. The human brain goes on 4 or 5 hours a day, if you're a teen brain, unfortunately, and has other people's amazing faux life vomited in their face 110 times a day through notifications. And that is okay. Don't tell me that because I have access to health care and Novocaine and Netflix that my life is better than any 15-year-old in history. All I know is I'm not on a jet to St. Bart's, right. My boyfriend doesn't have a six-pack, and I have not made $1 million trading ETH in the last 48 hours. So you have a constant attack of FOMO on young people. You have incentive not to get outdoors. You have less third places for them to connect, to meet, to drink, to make out, to spend. The number of teens who sees their friends every day has been cut in half just in the last 10 years. Men aged 20 to 30 are spending less time outdoors than prison inmates. And this has slowly but surely eroded among girls, it's eroded their self-esteem, specifically Instagram. And among boys, it's taken them into this other world where they start blaming women for their romantic problems. They start blaming immigrants for their economic problems. They get way too into video games, way into porn, quite frankly, way too into conspiracy theory. And I'm making huge generalizations here, but there is a lot of evidence that a lot of young men are spending way too much time alone. And we're mammals. If you want to see an orca go crazy, put it in a tank alone. I don't know if you have pets, but leave your dog alone for an extended period of time and sees what happens. So their anxiety and their depression and their obesity is skyrocketing. So it's a nuanced picture. On a straight economic level, and economists will say things are not that bad and maybe even a little bit better for young people. But on a mimetic level or on a psychological level, they are really struggling. They're having a tough time, with this constant benchmarking against an unreasonable set of expectations built on Instagram and other platforms.
Their frame of reference is off. You spend a lot of time writing and talking about what I call the crumbling community. This idea that we're divided politically, but more than that, we're divided physically. We don't get together as often as we did just a generation ago. You make a good argument for alcohol and young people, and you write about your fraternity life and how much that helped form the Scott Galloway that we've come to know. This idea that we should be sitting around more often, having drinks together.
Yeah, I've gotten some valid pushback, so I need kind of a land acknowledgement here. If you have addiction in your family,
sure.
if you need to be constantly conscious of whatever substances you're putting in your body in terms of your health and whether it's taking away from other productive activities. So I'm not suggesting that alcohol is the answer. There's 3 movements I really hate that I think are damaging young people. The first is remote work. Young people, especially young men, need the guardrails of work. If I hadn't been forced to get up at dark 100 hours when I was 22 right out of UCLA and put on a tie and commute downtown to Morgan Stanley, I would have been walking my dog all day. I probably would have been smoking pot in the afternoons. I wouldn't have developed this. My boss used to pull me out of conference rooms. Carter Cordner, a wonderful guy, died of bone cancer. He used to pull me out of meetings and take me into another room and go, "Don't say that." I mean, he would say, like, "Don't ever say that." And occasionally he would say that was good, but mostly it was like, "Dude, what are you thinking?
Why are you being such an idiot in the meeting?"
Yeah. And I needed to hear that. And I needed to shower every day. And I needed to put on a tie. And I needed to look nice. And I needed to proof things and make sure they were perfect. I needed the guardrails of a job. And by the way, 1 in 3 relationships, HR directors hate to hear this, 1 in 3 relationships begin at work. Men are losing all the venues to demonstrate excellence. It's being distilled down to online dating, where it comes down to a couple very anodyne features: how tall you are and your ability to signal wealth, what school you went to, where you live, if your Rolex accidentally ends up in the profile picture. So the mating dynamics have been totally upended. And also, there's just so many things getting in the way of these kids hooking up. Housing prices are a form of birth control. For every 10% housing prices go up, the birth rate goes down 1%. Because buying a house, you start saving for a house together. You move into a house together. Housing prices accelerating has actually hurt people connecting. 40% of the bars and pubs have closed down in the UK. And I'll come back. I hate the remote work movement. I hate the anti-alcohol movement. If you do an honest appraisal of the most important thing in your life, it's 2 things. It's relationship with your friends, relationship with a romantic partner. And what I ask most people is, be honest. Did alcohol play a role at the early stages of those relationships? I'm not talking about doing massive amounts of shots.
Right.
I'm talking about you're out on a date. It's a little uncomfortable. You like each other. Mm-hmm. Does a glass of wine help things?
Or you meet up after work for happy hour, and that's how, for us, that's how our relationship blossomed.
I think a certain amount of social drinking is actually a good thing. Now, unless, again, if it's not for you, it's not for you. I respect that. And then the third thing I can't stand is the incel movement. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, Craig, but it's a community of young men who've given up on dating because they think it's hard, and they're involuntarily celibate, and they almost wear like a badge of honor. Young men who feel rejected by women. It's the whole women aren't interested in me because I'm not rich or attractive, and they sort of just give up.
They wave the white flag? They just...
Given up. Incel movement. It's huge. 62% of men under the age of 30 are not trying to date. 42% of men between the ages of 18 and 22 have never asked a woman out in person. Now, some of that, there's some legitimacy to the notion that it's too dangerous to ask a woman out at work, or I don't want to be that guy. I sort of get that. I'm not that sympathetic to it. But here's the bottom line. 99% of men through 99% of history have been involuntarily celibate. I was involuntarily celibate for the first 19 years of my life. I was dying to be incelibate, but no one would participate in my program. So this is what I did. I leveled up.
Yeah.
I got a plan. I went to UCLA. I started working out. I took Accutane. My skin cleared up. I started making girl friends so I could understand more about how to behave around women. And maybe when they saw I wasn't a bad guy, they could set me up with their friends. But this notion that you just wave the flag and give up is not an accurate representation of history, because throughout history, the majority of men have been involuntarily celibate. Only 40% of men have reproduced, 80% of women. But in a Western society, 75% of men have had the opportunity to reproduce. So what I would say to all incels is your agency to find a mate has never been greater. So stop calling yourself an incel. You're a V-cell. You're voluntarily celibate. And if you're not willing, like the rest of us, to level up, to put in the hard work, to get a plan, to work out, to shower for God's sakes, to endure rejection, then boss, that is on you. That is not society. You have given up. Because the majority of us have been incels. We didn't call it that. We called it just trying. So I hate that movement. I hate the idea that young men are just giving up. Well, welcome to the work week. It is hard to find a romantic partner. It is important for women to have a finer filter. Women are leveling up. They are ascending economically. They're no longer economically dependent upon men. So their standards are rising, as they should, which is a challenge to young men that they need to level up.
I've got to ask you one more question here about teaching. And I do, by the way, I love the fact, because the reality is you don't have to teach. You're teaching at a point in your life because I gather you find it rewarding, and this notion that you're shaping and forming young minds and actually changing the way that people see the world, that's noble. You don't need the money. And I would imagine it takes up time that you could be spending doing other things. There's this new research from Gallup and the Walton Family Foundation. 71% of K through 12 teachers now have a side job. Only 1 in 4 say they're living comfortably on their income. What does it say about the future of education if teaching is no longer financially sustainable for a lot of folks? My mom was a school teacher.
It was a nobility for me. It was something I enjoyed. It's also been just an incredible platform for me from an influence. I'd be some obnoxious commentator, but I think people take me more seriously because of the professor title. And also I do feel an onus, and I think I live up to it. I do more fact-checking. And when I write a book, I purposely really do a ton of fact-checking because I realize that I take that NYU logo seriously. Anyways, the K through 12 folks, we all say this all the time. Anytime you call someone a hero, it means society's treating them like a jerk. We don't call surgeons heroes. We don't call CEOs of private equity firms heroes. Be careful. You don't want to go into an industry where someone calls you a hero, because that means society is about to underpay you and then claim you're a hero. Well, fine, don't call me a fucking hero. Just pay me a living wage would be my retort. The K through 12, the reality is supply and demand. There is still an ability to attract teachers while not paying them a lot. We have to have programs that forgive student debt, in my view, and quite frankly, pay them all more money such that, going back to young men, we need to get more young men involved in K through 12. 70 to 80% of primary school teachers are female. Now, the downside of that is that there is a bias against boys in school, and this causes controversy, but I have data here. Boys are twice as likely to be suspended for the exact same behavior as a girl, and black boys are 5 times as likely to be suspended. There is a bias against boys. It is an unconscious bias, but who are you going to champion and relate to in school? Someone who reminds you of yourself at that age. Mm-hmm. So unless we get more men involved in young men's lives at K through 12, we're going to continue to see a lot of boys come off the tracks. So I think there's a lot of social incentives and rationale for having federal legislation that provides maybe cheaper mortgages, or similar to some of the benefits we provide our great federal employees or our military. But we need to the problem is that at my level, we have a line out the door of people who want to say they're an NYU professor. And by the way, it's a great gig. I started getting invited on Bloomberg because I was an NYU marketing professor, and it kind of started all of it. My books, I think, sell 20 to 30% more because I can have the professor title. So I have taken more from it. I've gotten more from NYU than I've given, and I've given a lot, I think. K through 12, totally different ball game. That is real work.
Yeah, it is.
That is real work to
yes,
get up. What grade did your mom teach?
She taught elementary school, so a variety of different grades, but did it for 3 decades. At one point, had to take on a second job at a pharmacy because, we were having trouble making ends meet. And then, you'd see her, you teach the full day, and then after that, you're grading papers. You're meeting with parents, But you make a really good point about, and I never thought about it until you said it, this idea that as a society we like to label people heroes, whether it's a firefighter or a school teacher or a nurse, but oftentimes, it's the people that we know deep down we're grossly underpaying.
100%.
I've got a section here that's called Craig's Curiosities. These are rapid fire questions.
Great.
Some of them make sense, some of them don't. What's one of your favorite podcasts to listen to outside your own?
Oh, The Daily from the New York Times. I think they do a fantastic job, and also Making Sense with Sam Harris.
Yep. Well, there was a great opportunity for you to plug glass half full, and you just decided to walk away from it.
Well, that's a given.
Okay.
That's a given.
Oh, good.
I didn't want to be redundant to the other millions and millions of fans out there.
Yes, thank you. Best investment you made?
Well, I want to say something passe. I've finally found purpose. I used to think investments is, all right, I want more ROI. I want to get more than I've given. What I have figured out as I've gotten older is that to find something that you will invest more in and give yourself to it is the most rewarding thing in life. That's where you find your purpose. And the first time I ever did that, I've invested more in my boys than I think I will ever get back. It's not that I don't get huge reward for them, but I'm up late at night worrying about them when they're not home. They're not worrying about me at home worrying about them. I would think I was more worried about college applications than my son was. There's no way I will ever get an economic or return on the amount of love and concern I've invested in my boys. And that's the whole shooting match. I have finally found something that I can surrender to and give everything to. And now it's my purpose. And as a younger man, I used to look at investments as I want more back. So anyways, my best investment is negative ROI. That's where I found my purpose, and that's with sons.
What's one thing you wish you were better at doing?
I wish I was happier. I wish I had more perspective to appreciate. I have blessings of Everest and mood of, a small hill, an anthill. I have an extraordinary life by any measure, yet I still find time to feel sorry for myself, to hold grudges, to be depressed. So I'm not great at I don't have as much perspective as I should have around my blessings. And I still find myself wallowing in self-pity sometimes. I still find myself angry at others, then I get angry at myself. I struggle, Craig. So I think I lack the perspective I would hope I would have had at this point. I'm not good at enjoying, really registering and enjoying my blessings.
Yeah, I find that to be the case with a lot of hyper-successful people, but you do possess something that I maintain a lot of folks, unfortunately, don't have. You're self-aware.
I also wish I was a better dancer.
Well, so do I.
Except when I'm drunk, I think I'm a good dancer.
See,
But
there
anyway.
you go.
Yeah.
Lastly, I want to talk to you. It's a delicate topic, but you brought it up, so I feel like it's fair game. On your own podcast recently, you talked about getting some work done, and most men don't typically speak openly about cosmetic procedures. Why did you decide to go public?
I like to live my life transparently, but I think I screwed up. If I had it to do again, I wouldn't have done it because it's become a bit of a meme. It's some funny stuff with me comparing me to Nicole Kidman. When I played soccer when I was growing up, I got kicked in the face. My nose was always gone to the right.
Yeah.
And I decided to have it fixed. I'm vain enough to have had it done. I'm not vain enough to really care about it, so I went public with it. I think there's very few men in our business who are on camera a lot who at some point post-50 who have money are probably not going to have something done. And then when you get focused on something and you're on 4K camera all day, all you see is that. But yeah, I like to be transparent and open and provocative and try and be as out there as possible. And I generally find if you're pretty transparent, people are pretty forgiving. But I got to be honest, I probably wouldn't do it again because it just became like a thing and a meme.
Again, self-aware. You're self-aware. 2 questions for the road. What's one moment Scott Galloway is still chasing?
I'm not there yet. I want a moment where I'm certain I've added surplus value, where I've noticed more people's lives than have noticed mine, where I've created more economic value for other people, when I can give money away anonymously and not need some sort of ego or virtue signaling back. I'm still waiting for that moment of actualization where I think I just know I've checked a box around what it is to be an American man, and that is to know that I've added surplus value. I'm working on it. I'm not there yet.
What's one moment that you hope people will remember you for?
My legacy is, I just want, when you think about your tombstone, I want to be seen as generous, a patriot, but more than anything, I want to be seen as a good dad. I just want my sons to just know that, I was imperfect and I screwed up a lot, but it would just be impossible for them not to just be 110% certain that, I just love them immensely.
I got a pretty good feeling they'll know that, Scott
Hope
Galloway.
so.
I've enjoyed this. I always enjoy listening to you. I enjoy talking to you as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Craig. Congratulations on all your success.
And to you as well, my friend. Cheers.
Cheers.
This episode of Glass Half Full was sponsored by Walton Family Foundation. And thank you. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Glass Half Full. I want to encourage you, if you enjoyed the conversation, to like, subscribe, share, and the corporate overlords upstairs want me to encourage you to drop a comment as well. You can even suggest a future guest for Glass Half Full. So until next time, my glass always half full. See you next time.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch the Today Show every morning on NBC or take Today when you're on the go. Just follow the Today podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.